Remember the days when your backpack was stuffed with scented stickers, neon-colored folders, and a Walkman you wouldn't trade for anything? Or maybe you still remember the thrill of walking into an arcade. Pockets full of quarters, heart racing with excitement? The 1980s were more than just a decade. They were a sensory explosion of sights, sounds, and style that defined an entire generation. Today, we take a nostalgic journey through 10 unforgettable items from the 1980s that shaped childhood and quietly faded into history. Coming in at number 1. Scratch and sniff stickers. In the early 1980s, something magical happened to ordinary school supplies. They started to smell like your favorite treats. Scratch and sniff stickers turned plain notebooks and folders into scented treasure chests. With just a quick rub of your finger, you could unlock the aroma of fresh strawberries, root beer, bubble gum, or even pizza. For kids, it wasn't just fun, it was pure magic. These stickers were more than decoration, they were social currency on the playground. Trading them became a daily ritual. The rarer the scent, the more valuable it was. Some kids even had entire sticker albums dedicated to collecting and preserving them, carefully organized like precious stamps. As the 90s approached, their popularity faded. Schools started banning scented items due to allergies, and newer trends like Pokemon and digital gadgets took center stage. But for anyone who grew up in the 80s, the moment you catch a whiff of artificial grape or buttery popcorn, it all comes rushing back. Just one scratch, and you're 8 years old again, flipping through your sticker book by the window, with your cassette player humming nearby. Coming in at number 2. Slap bracelets. In the late 1980s, slap bracelets took schools by storm. One quick motion, and you had a coiled band wrapped perfectly around your wrist. These thin strips of metal encased in colorful fabric weren't just accessories, they were attitude. Whether it was hot pink lightning bolts, zebra stripes, or glow-in-the-dark green, your slap bracelet said, "I've got style, and I'm ready to play." What made them so irresistible was the satisfying snap as they curled with precision. It was the sound of recess, of giggles and challenges. How many times can you slap it before the teacher notices? Unfortunately, their reign didn't last. By the early 90s, concerns about kids getting scratched by exposed metal led to bans in schools across the country. But before that, they lived a short but glorious life as the ultimate playground trend. Even now, that familiar slap is enough to transport anyone back to elementary hallways. Trapper keeper in hand, lunchbox in the other, and that bold bracelet proudly wrapped around your wrist. Coming in at number 3. The Sony Walkman. Before smartphones and streaming, music wasn't something you carried in your pocket, it was something you earned. And in the 1980s, the Sony Walkman was the badge of cool. Sleek, compact, and often tucked into a denim jacket or clipped to a belt loop. The Walkman gave kids and teens their first taste of true independence, a private soundtrack to their lives. It wasn't just about listening, it was about curating. Recording a mixtape from the radio, rewinding to your favorite chorus, flipping the cassette to side B. Every interaction with your music felt hands-on and personal. And those soft, orange foam headphones? Iconic. The rise of CDs and then MP3s eventually pushed cassette technology aside. As sound quality improved and devices got smaller, the Walkman faded into nostalgia, replaced by Discmans, iPods, and eventually smartphones. But for anyone who grew up in the 80s, the moment you hear the click of a cassette door closing or that warm tape hiss before a song starts, it's like going back in time. The Walkman wasn't just a gadget, it was freedom, expression, and rebellion, all rolled into one pocket-sized miracle. Coming in at number 4. Blockbuster video rentals. In the 1980s, a trip to Blockbuster wasn't just an errand, it was an event. Families would pile into the car on a Friday night, eager to browse the endless shelves of VHS tapes under the warm glow of fluorescent lights. The familiar scent of popcorn, the blue and yellow signage, and that satisfying clamshell snap of the video case, it all felt like part of a weekly ritual. Choosing a movie wasn't easy. You'd argue over action versus comedy, race your sibling to grab the last copy of a new release, or settle for a staff pick that turned out to be surprisingly good. And let's not forget the golden rule: be kind. Rewind. Those little stickers were both a warning and a promise that you were part of a shared experience. As technology advanced, DVDs, on-demand cable, and eventually streaming services made physical rentals obsolete. Blockbuster stores slowly closed, one by one, leaving behind ghost signs and empty storefronts. But for anyone who grew up in that era, just seeing a Blockbuster logo can trigger a flood of warmth, the joy of choosing, the thrill of watching, and the comfort of sharing it all with family on the living room couch. Movie night wasn't just about the film, it was about the journey to find it. Coming in at number 5, Trapper Keepers. If you were a student in the 1980s, your school year didn't officially begin until you picked out your Trapper Keeper. These weren't just binders, they were status symbols. Bright neon colors, wild geometric patterns, images of unicorns, race cars, or even cartoon kittens. They screamed personality and flair in a sea of plain notebooks. What made the Trapper Keeper so special wasn't just the bold artwork, it was the design. With its Velcro flap, built-in folders, and slick organizing system, it promised a sense of order in the chaos of school life. And let's be honest, that Velcro sound when you opened it, incredibly satisfying. By the mid-90s, tastes changed. Schools started banning them for being too distracting, and minimalist trends took over. Digital tools also began creeping into classrooms, pushing paper-based systems aside. But for 1980s kids, the Trapper Keeper wasn't just for holding homework. It was a creative canvas, a mini locker of secrets, and a quiet way to stand out. One look at that flashy cover, and you're back at your desk, doodling on a folder corner while the bell rings for recess. Coming in at number 6, neon clothes. If there's one fashion statement that defined the 1980s, it was neon, bold, blinding, and impossible to ignore. From hot pink leg warmers to electric green windbreakers, neon wasn't just a color choice, it was an identity. Wearing neon in the 80s meant you were confident, fun, and ready to stand out in a crowd, even if you were just headed to the roller rink or the school dance. This fashion trend exploded thanks to aerobics culture, MTV, and pop stars who embraced all things loud and expressive. You couldn't walk through a mall without seeing racks full of glowing orange headbands, lime-colored socks, or jackets that looked like they were made of highlighters. It wasn't about matching, it was about making a splash. As the 90s rolled in, fashion trends shifted toward grunge, earth tones, and minimalist looks. Neon began to feel dated, too loud, too flashy, too extra. But today, just the memory of those colors can make your heart skip a beat. It brings back school picture days, Lisa Frank folders, and that one neon sweatshirt you wore way too often but loved way too much. Neon wasn't subtle, but it was unforgettable. Coming in at number 7, jelly shoes. There was a time in the 1980s when nearly every little girl owned at least one pair of jelly shoes, and they were pure magic. Made from translucent, flexible plastic and often laced with glitter, these shoes looked like they were spun from candy or stardust. They came in every color imaginable: pastel pink, seafoam green, even clear, and they were as much a fashion statement as they were a childhood memory. What made jelly shoes special was how they made you feel. You didn't just wear them, you twinkled in them. They were the perfect finishing touch to any birthday outfit, Sunday dress, or playdate at the park. The excitement of slipping them on, the tiny squeaks they made with each step, it was all part of the charm. But as adorable as they were, jelly shoes weren't exactly known for comfort. They could rub, pinch, and turn your feet into sweaty slip and slides on a hot summer day. Eventually, more supportive footwear and changing trends edged them out of the spotlight. Still, for those who remember, jelly shoes weren't just shoes, they were a tiny piece of plastic joy. They sparkled on your feet and in your memories, bright, playful, and impossibly 80s. Coming in at number 8, Cabbage Patch Kids. Few toys in the 1980s sparked as much chaos, or as much affection, as the Cabbage Patch Kids. With their round, squishy faces, yarn-like hair, and soft cloth bodies, these dolls felt different from anything else on the shelves. But what truly set them apart was the story. Each one came with its own name, birth certificate, and adoption papers, making every doll feel like it was truly yours. These weren't just toys, they were companions. Kids lined up outside stores, clutched their chosen child tightly, and proudly showed off their adoption documents to friends and family. During the holiday seasons of the early 80s, demand was so high that stores experienced full-on stampedes. Parents scrambled, elbowed, and begged to get their hands on one. It was more than a fad, it was a frenzy. As the years passed, the novelty wore off. Competing toy lines, evolving tastes, and the rise of high-tech gadgets slowly dimmed the Cabbage Patch glow. But for those who grew up clutching one tightly at night, that doll was more than a toy. It was a friend, a sibling, a piece of childhood you never truly gave up, even if it's now tucked in a memory box under the bed. Coming in at number 9. Garbage Pail Kids Cards. In the mid-1980s, right when Cabbage Patch Kids were winning hearts, their twisted cousins crashed the party, Garbage Pail Kids. These collectible trading cards were the rebellious, grotesquely hilarious answer to sugary sweet dolls. With names like Atom Bomb, Leaky Lindsay, and Barf and Barbara, each card featured wild illustrations of kids doing the most outrageous things, oozing, exploding, puking, or worse, and kids absolutely loved them. Part parody, part prank, Garbage Pail Kids became a playground obsession. Kids traded them like currency, held secret swaps under cafeteria tables, and dared each other to find the grossest ones. The art was clever, the puns were brilliant, and the shock value? Off the charts. But not everyone was laughing. Parents and teachers were horrified. Some schools banned them outright. Others saw them as disruptive or morally questionable. By the late 80s, the controversy and oversaturation began to dim their popularity. Still, for the kids who collected them, those cards were a rite of passage. They were messy, mischievous, and magnificent, the perfect symbol of a generation that wasn't afraid to color outside the lines. Coming in at number 10. Waterbeds. In the 1980s, nothing said luxury quite like a waterbed. These massive, fluid-filled mattresses were the ultimate status symbol, equal parts bedroom centerpiece and conversation starter. With their glossy vinyl surfaces and gently sloshing waves, waterbeds felt like something out of a sci-fi movie, and for a while, everyone wanted one. Originally marketed in the 70s as therapeutic and modern, waterbeds peaked in the 80s, becoming a staple in suburban master bedrooms. They promised better sleep, fewer pressure points, and, let's be honest, a little added romance. The gentle rocking motion, the warm water heating system, it was all part of the allure. But the dream wasn't always smooth sailing. Leaks were common, they were incredibly heavy, and moving one was a logistical nightmare. As traditional mattresses improved and trends shifted, waterbeds quietly slid out of style. Still, for those who experienced one, it wasn't just a bed, it was an experience. You remember that slow wave as you climbed in, the heater hum at night, and the odd mix of comfort and chaos it brought. The waterbed wasn't practical, but it was unforgettable. So, which of these 1980s treasures brought back the biggest wave of nostalgia for you? Did you collect scratch and sniff stickers, rock a neon outfit, or cuddle up with a Cabbage Patch Kid? Drop a comment below and share your favorite memory. We'd love to hear your story. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more vintage flashbacks from America's past. Because here at Vintage USA Vault, the memories never fade, they just get better with time.